Hey everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be going over the 1971 Eisenhower dollar that recently sold for over $250,000, and it originally was purchased by somebody with a sharp eye for $10. It's a prototype and one of the first ever of this new series that went from 1971 to 1978 as the last large size silver dollar, and I'm really excited to discuss it with you today. So I have a presentation that explains how to look for them, sort of the overall story, the different theories as to how it could have happened, and there are 3 of them known, so a little bit of detail on each of those, plus everything else sort of surrounding it that you might want to be aware of. So let's get right into the video and head on over to the presentation. And right here we have the 1971 Eisenhower dollar that just sold for $264,000 in a heritage auction sale down at the Fun Show in Florida, and it's been graded Specimen 67. It's the Lidstone-Frohman Discovery prototype, and I'm excited to explain first basically how to look for it, but then also a lot of the backstory and significance, because this is a really cool coin, but I also think that the value was sort of aided by the marketing, or really the story behind the coin, really understanding why it's so special, just as opposed to being a slightly different type of Eisenhower dollar, because there's a lot to it. In terms of telling if you've got one of these, well, there's going to be some different characteristics, but these were basically the first Eisenhower dollars that were struck. Now, a lot of them, or 2 of the 3, have seen this doubling on the motto and date. It's actually pretty strong and clear. Split serifs in the N and the T. Same thing, sort of some shelving along the 1. Over here, there's a depression by the tail, and that's sort of near it on the reverse. That's found in also multiple of them, and is viewed as possibly testing the planchet hardness, or like how hard the coin was, because remember, they're making these coins, they want them to be up to standard. The fields are definitely very frosty, though they might, since I'll get to this later, but basically they are often stored and released likely in the same way that a lot of the other ones were in these blue packs, so they can get hazy, but once there's conservation, or perhaps without, then you can tell that it is in fact one of these special types of coins. The rims are going to be really square, though the serifs in Liberty are documented as being lighter than some of the proof ones, and then it's a really sharp strike, but you can see a little bit of weakness in the eagle's breast along with the earth on the back of the coin. But in terms of the info, and why that this is so special, it's called, or it's sort of been referred to by Heritage as the birth certificate of America's last silver dollar, essentially sort of explaining how the last silver dollar, remember, it hadn't been since 1935 that there were silver dollars released into circulation for circulating purposes. They struck some in 1964, but those were all melted, or so they should be. But these are prototypes that predated the 40% silver Eisenhower dollars that started, again, 1971 and ran for several years, though all Eisenhower dollars would be stopped in 1978. And it's not a pattern coin. I think that patterns are really a neat field of collecting, but this was not struck as a concept coin to think about putting it into circulation. Instead, it was sort of by the engraver coming up with a final product, so it was really just produced to aid in the production of coins that were definitely going to be existing, but that's sort of the prototype versus pattern difference. And in terms of the story, in terms of the one in front of us, it was discovered by Lee Lidstone and his wife at a Long Beach coin show in 2008. They're still important. Apparently his wife called him over to look at a bunch of Eisenhowers in in rolls, in tubes, and he noticed that this one looked a little bit different. So he purchased it for $10, and was able to discern that there was something off. It was a good hunch that he had, and originally it had a fair amount of sort of old haze and surface haze from those blue pack Eisenhower dollar holders. And it got certified as a Specimen 65 Plus at PCGS after a lot of numismatic experts such as Dr. Wiles, people from the Ike group, and ANAX all sort of had conferred and confirmed that this was a real finding of a prototype coin. However, it's now in a specimen 67 after a conservation process where I believe the coin would have been dipped, but I'm not exactly sure what the process would look like. I'm not a conservation expert and don't do much of it myself. The other interesting thing is that the other two finds following it were actually also pretty cheap, finds. It wasn't like it was sort of smuggled out of the mint, or so we think, because somebody purchased one from an Alabama pawn shop in 2010 and another off of eBay in 2013. So imagine being the seller on eBay. You want to know exactly if you've got one of these that, what you had. But the two main theories in terms of how these could have come to be. So there were some prototypes that were struck, and there was like a media viewing in early 1971, but they were destined to be destroyed. Now, what could have happened is if they accidentally escaped destruction and were sold in the blue packs that were, $3 each, you could get one of these 40% silver dollars. Again, the three totaled, I believe it was 10 for one. I want to say it was 22 for the coin on eBay and then 5 for the last one, but something in that range. So it wasn't like insiders were profiting, unless the stories are fake, in a big way where they're, they've got these coins, hold them for 40 years, and then try to make a story out of it. The other thing is that it is a little peculiar that it has a S mint mark, because those would have been punched into the dies last. So they could have been struck at San Francisco. There aren't any official communications on the prototypes, but the officer in charge of the San Francisco Assay Office in 1975 said that they were making prototypes and they didn't have the proper proof planchets that were polished to sort of make a proof strike. So those coins were also supposed to be destroyed, but they were striking some sort of hybrid, and that could explain how it's so frosty. It seems much nicer than your regular business strike, but at the same time, it's it's not a proof strike. So that's where the specimen unique look comes about. So in terms of the ones that you may have, well, it's not like it's only the prototypes that are super valuable. These are what the blue Ikes would have looked like. These packs that weren't probably the best for long-term storage, and they do often develop the haze. They sold for $3, and they're only about $10 or $11 today. On the left, we see just a really, really nice regular Mint State 68 2012 sale of $6,900 for a really, really nice silver Ike from this year. But it really doesn't beat the recent auction record, and one of the most important, I would loop it in with modern coins in the game, this 1971S, being that it probably is one of the, at the moment, basically first three known of these Eisenhower dollars. They have these first strike pedigrees that I really don't like too much, or I don't think that they add much value. But when you know that a coin was one of three, and it wasn't just for that year, but instead a full type, and not only just a type, but the Eisenhower Dollar, last silver dollar type, I think that is a really special coin to own. And, with a strong coin market, $264,000, it's always tough to say, should this be worth $50,000, $10,000, or maybe $1 million, because the 1976 No S Eisenhower proof is valued around $850,000. I've gotten contacted by the family saying they've had offers in the seven figures. And then there's also the 75 No S dime that sold for about $456,000. So all some crazy numbers for the modern rarities, but a really neat story, and I hope to cover any interesting coin news as it comes in the future as well. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. I've also got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can follow me there. TreasuretownYT.com is the main channel website. Definitely give that a visit. I've got a lot of information about me up there and the channel. CoinGrabBag.com as well currently redirects there, but it's some good opportunities for very fair grab bags, both made by me and other sellers. A lot of different options, so that's a good way to support. There's also treasuretowncoins.com. In the future, my coin dealing operation will be done out of that website. Coinmeltprice.com for updates on the melt prices of your coins, both US and world. A lot of resources in that website. And then coinsmetalscards.com, being developed right now as a marketplace and news source for coins, metals, cards, and collectibles in general. So I'll see you on my future videos. Looking forward to seeing you there, and hope you have a good day.